What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go.
The Tennessee Titans, as we know, hold the #1 overall pick.
A once-in-a-generation type player potentially at #1.
What the heck the Titans should do?
What do you think the Titans plan to do at #1?
What did the Titans do with that first overall pick?
Tennessee, they need a quarterback.
What are you hearing about the plans for quarterback there for the Titans?
Should Travis Hunter be the #1 pick?
Quarterback or Travis Hunter at 1?
What will the Tennessee Titans do with the #1 overall pick? I think my favorite part of talking quarterbacks and #1 overall selections is the different type routes that these guys take to get there. You know, we've seen in recent memory guys like Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, Andrew Luck, who were discussed at being selected #1 overall when they were freshmen and sophomores in college. Then we have guys like Joe Burrow and Baker Mayfield, who going into their senior year were not only not considered the #1 overall pick, no one would have taken them in the first round. And then the season happens and everything changes. In recent memory, we have seen this thing called the transfer portal, where guys really struggle one place, go somewhere else, and become a star. We just had a draft with Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix, Bo Nix. Not only changed schools, but changed the trajectory of their career by the transfer portal. Now we have a guy named Cam Ward, who last year dipped his toe into coming out. Should I become a pro? He ended up saying no. And he got paid to go to the University of Miami, which clearly changed the trajectory of his career. Where now Adam Schefter recently said on ESPN that all signs point to Cam Ward being the #1 overall pick in the draft. DraftKings has Cam Ward as the heavy betting favorite to be selected by the Tennessee Titans. If you looked at free agency, when guys like Geno Smith and Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones and all these players were moving teams, the Titans, who were desperate for a quarterback and had some cap space, did not dabble. When you look back at the last 30 plus years at this franchise and the players that they have selected at quarterback really high in the draft, it's pretty fascinating. If you go back to 1995, they were then the Houston Oilers, and they took a small town, small school quarterback named Steve McNair, who would go on to win an MVP, who would lead the franchise within feet of winning a Super Bowl, and during the prime of his career, was widely considered one of the best players at his position in the NFL. Steve McNair, as we will go over the next 30 plus years, is by far the best draft pick the franchise has made over the course of my lifetime.
The Tennessee Titans, with Steve McNair not even allowed to work out there, probably days as a Titan numbered. Here comes a quarterback. Which one?
With the third choice in the 2006 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Vince Young, quarterback, University of Texas.
In 2006, fresh off a national championship, Steve McNair is then gone. He's on the Ravens. He is no longer their quarterback. The Titans selected with the #3 overall pick, Vince Young, who would go on to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year and make a Pro Bowl. Looked like he was about to become a star until he wasn't.
Have we seen the last of Vince Young in a Titans uniform? Young's actions after the game may have cost him the position. And it was a tough day for Young, who was showered with boos while the Titans offense struggled in the second quarter. Vince acknowledged the fans' frustration by waving back to the crowd. If VY's emotions were getting the best of him, they reached a peak in front of his head coach and teammates after the game in the locker room.
I guess teammates are disappointed. You know, there's going to be frustration and losses. There's going to be, there are times when you really have to just dig deep and fight and turn to one another. I don't think you run, and so I'm disappointed.
Head coach Jeff Fisher mentioned that VY could possibly need season-ending surgery on his injured thumb, but regardless of his health, Fisher made it clear that Vince Young is out as his starting quarterback and Rusty Smith is in.
Speaking of new coaches, there's a new coach for the first time at the Titans/Oilers franchise. The first time in a long time. Jeff Fisher's not head coach. It's Mike Munchak. Here's the pick.
With the 8th pick in the 2011 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Jake Locker, quarterback, Washington.
Well, this is a guy. So the Titans go quarterback. Remember, Vince Young out. Yep. Kerry Collins, who knows? Jeff Fisher no longer.
In 2011, with the 8th overall pick, the Titans took a guy named Jake Locker. Not gonna lie, like Jake, like the pick. The problem is, it did not work out. It did not go well at all. Chris Mortensen once said before the draft that an anonymous GM told him that Jake is a bigger, taller, right-handed Steve Young. The problem with that comparison is Steve Young was accurate. Jake Locker, a lifetime in college 53% passer, was not. Locker would go on to be injured and only start 23 games in a 4-year NFL career. Yes, you heard that correctly. Locker, who was drafted in 2011, would retire in 2015. Disaster. Then in 2015, the Titans, with the number 2 overall selection, drafted a guy that some actually compared to Steve Young because of his accuracy, Marcus Mariota. And by Marcus's second year as the full-time starter in 2016, looked like he was about to become a star. Threw 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and led the Titans to the playoffs. The problem is just a couple years later, Marcus Mariota would be replaced by Ryan Tannehill, who would go on to resurrect his career and turn Marcus Mariota into a career backup. In 2023, the Titans selected Will Levis with the 33rd overall pick. And now heading into the 2025 season, it's pretty clear that Will Levis's days are numbered in Tennessee. So if you look back at their history, McNair, home run draft pick. Vince Young, disaster. Jake Locker, even worse. Mariota, who we all rooted for, just did not work out. And now they find themselves looking at Cam Ward, who at the combine, where he did not participate, measured in a little bit under 6'2" and 219 pounds. Actually very similar measurements to Steve McNair. Now, Cam Ward's career is fascinating. I once heard about him from an assistant GM years ago who was doing some summer scouting. And he was about to attack early on in the fall the Pac-12. And he was looking at Washington State's quarterback, who had just come from Incarnate Word. I'll be honest, I not only had never heard of that school, I have still to this day have no clue where that is. Now, Cam Ward at Incarnate Word dominated and transferred to Washington State, where he immediately became the starter. And over the course of 2 seasons, threw 48 touchdowns and 16 interceptions and threw over 65% completion percentage. Was very, very good in the Pac-12. Now, his team wasn't. They went 12-13 the 2 years as he was a starter. But Cam was a good player. Then, at the end of 2023, Cam decided to dip his toe into putting his name in the NFL draft.
Cougs may not be in a bowl game this year, but they're still making news today. This morning on Instagram, quarterback Cam Ward announced he's not transferring after all. He's going to the NFL draft instead. Ward led the Cougs for 2 seasons and was one of the most talked about Cougs in the transfer portal, drawing interest from the likes of Florida State, Miami, and others. But he's chosen the NFL.
Opinions were mixed. I think a lot of people viewed Cam Ward as a fringe day 2, more likely than not day 3 pick. So Miami, in this NIL era, threw a lot of money at Cam Ward. And Cam Ward took his name out of the draft process and went to go play for Mario Cristobal, where he would go on to throw for 39 touchdowns and lead them to 10 wins. Now, Cam Ward is a fascinating prospect. He's a good athlete. He has a big, explosive arm. And I think most would consider him a fantastic playmaker. Now, when you watch him from an old school perspective, he's not just going to sit in the pocket and make everything happen. He likes to freelance. He likes to throw on the run. And he can do some things. I saw Daniel Jeremiah post something on social media the other day that looks a little different than most. I would say he's not exactly teaching Peyton Manning or Tom Brady footwork teach tapes on the internet. But there is no disputing when it comes to the 2025 draft, he is by far the most physically gifted. And I think that's why the Titans, who do not have a quarterback and are desperate for some life at the position, are willing to swing for the fences on this pick. Because I do believe if you polled most GMs, it's been widely talked about that if Cam Ward, even this version, the guy that just played at Miami, that won all those games, that threw all those touchdowns, and was a huge reason they were winning games because their defense was atrocious, that if this version of this player was in last year's draft with all those quarterbacks, he would not have been in the top 3. And some people would have had him 5th or 6th in that group. But in 2025, that's not the Titans' problem. They are comparing him to Shedeur Sanders, to Jackson Dart, and the rest of the quarterbacks in this draft class. One of the more polarizing moments of Cam Ward's career came in the bowl game at Miami, where he had an opportunity to break the NCAA record for touchdowns thrown in a career for 158. He needed 3 touchdowns against Iowa State to hold the record. He threw all 3 of them in the first half.
Cam Ward has now passed Case Keenum for the all-time passing touchdown record, no matter the level of college football. 156th in his career, spanning the years that he spent in the FCS level at Incarnate Word, and then Washington State, now Miami.
And then when the Hurricanes came out in the second half, Cam Ward was no longer the starter. After the game, Mario Cristobal had said that they had decided before the game, once he broke the record, to yank him out. This game didn't mean anything. It wasn't a playoff game. Now, it became pretty controversial because he disappears. Miami was playing well. They don't play as well, and they end up losing. Now, clearly, by all indications, the Titans are unfazed by that. And they are just looking at a guy with a massive arm, with a lot of upside, and the ability to be their franchise quarterback. What will they do? Why do the Tennessee Titans think that Cam Ward is their savior? Well, last year, only the Cleveland Browns threw more interceptions as an offense than the Titans. The Titans were sacked 52 times last season. Only 5 other teams in the NFL were taken to the ground more often. The Titans passing game, the Titans quarterback play was atrocious. Simply put, they are desperate. Now, I do think best case scenario, Cam Ward can be a top 10 quarterback. And when you look at historical numbers, when it comes to drafting quarterbacks 1 overall, you have a better chance to hit than if you take a quarterback 5th overall, 8th overall, 10th overall. So your opportunity with the number 1 overall pick, you obviously get the pick of the litter. You can pick any player in the entire draft, gives you a better percentage chance of hitting on the position. But as we have seen, just because you draft a quarterback really high, Vince Young, Jake Locker, Marcus Mariota, it does not guarantee you anything. Brian Callahan, the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, is in a weird spot. The general manager that hired him is no longer there. Rand Carthen, fired. Mike Borgazzi, coming over from the Kansas City Chiefs, now in. But it's pretty clear that the Tennessee Titans will select Cam Ward with the number 1 overall pick. Time will tell if it works out.